America's workforce. Its strength is our nation's success. Join I Build America podcast as we explore innovative solutions and inspiring stories from leaders and workers shaping America. Discover actionable insights to build a motivated workforce.
I build America.
Hi, my name is Lorraine Lane, and welcome to another episode of I Build America, where we highlight the people, organizations, and places that support and define our workforce in America. Today, I have the privilege of interviewing Mario Gonzalez from HBI, that's Home Builders Institute. He is the Vice President of Workforce and Employment Training. Welcome, Mario. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, no problem. It's our pleasure. Mario, tell us about your journey. How did you get involved with HBI?
Dumb luck. So I spent 21 years in the Army. And
Okay.
I retired out of the Army in 2018.
Thank you for your service. I mean
It
that.
was a pleasure. And I had a well thought out plan that didn't really go to plan,
As most do.
as most do, and found myself, struggling to get back into the workforce after 6 months. So I took an entry level job at a tire plant in the quality department. And somewhere in the process of job searching and putting myself out there or whatnot, I don't remember ever applying for the position that I took with HBI, but I was contacted by my former supervisor, Ricky Lewis, and Jeremy Hurley's my current supervisor.
Mhm.
And we did a video interview, which was odd. And then they came in, met me in person, and started explaining the position, explaining the organization.
Mhm.
And I was still kind of hesitant because I was a fish out of water. I was just
Right,
there,
right.
like, this doesn't seem real. But a really interesting thing happened because I invest in people and I really like getting to know the teams and the people that I'm working with. So I've kind of formed relationships at that tire
Mhm.
plant. And so I was kind of like, I don't want to kind of just give up on.
Right. I got my team here. We're working real well together.
And so I asked my wife and she said, well, pray on it. And I did. And I was going through some of my documentation that the Army has us go through our transition process to get out. And a small little leaflet of paper fell out. And the gentleman that was conducting that portion of the training had us write down like 5 ideals for a job. Like,
Okay.
if you could have whatever you want. And I wrote down 5 pretty specific ones. And when the paper fell out, I read it, and everything that Jeremy and Ricky had been telling me
Was on
aligned.
Really?
That paper or the potentiality to
Right.
have that. And so I threw my hands up and I said, that's it, right?
That was the sign.
That was
That
it.
was the sign.
And so I took that job and I started as a regional career development coordinator for the program out of Clarksville, Tennessee, that services the Fort Campbell transitioning military.
Okay.
What I didn't realize was that that was God sent because it kept me very close to a population and an environment that I had spent 21 years in.
Right. Very familiar for you.
Yes, and allowed me some flexibility to stretch my civilian wings and figure out what that was going to look like. And then it gave me purpose again. It gave me that one of the things that transitioning service members probably take for granted is service is inherent in your role in the military. That's how
Okay.
I call it service, right?
Right.
But finding that purpose again outside or tying the work you're doing outside of the military to service
Right.
was an epiphany for me.
Okay.
And when that formula played out, it just aligned really well. And then I took everything that the military had instilled in me and everything that I had learned going through my education route and applied it to HBI and really invested and got to learn the organization and what we do. And then again, Jeremy Hurley and Ricky that I mentioned earlier took a risk and invested in me
Right.
and started, trusting me and pouring more responsibilities onto me. And as opportunity unfolded within HBI,
You kept growing.
I kept growing.
Wow. What an incredible story. So I hear congratulations are in order for HBI that recently your organization got recognition from Congress, House of Representatives. Tell me about that. What is that about?
Yeah, so here specifically in Phoenix, HBI runs a Build Strong Academy. It's one of
Okay.
one of our pillars that is under my portfolio.
Okay.
The associate vice president for that pillar is Alex Gomez, and probably about 10 months ago, we were approached by U.S. vets.
Okay.
U.S. vets services a homeless population of veterans and wanted to see how we could come together to provide services to their clientele.
Mhm.
And so we were going to go full-fledged into operating a program at one of their facilities, but we kind of had to pump the brakes on that and decided that, well, let's pilot it somewhere that you already have clients and to make sure that the value of what we are giving you is something you want. And so we ran that pilot here in Phoenix with 10 of their clients, and it started in March, and they recently graduated. And
Wow.
we had something happen for that small group that had never happened before. They all had job opportunities
Right off
the bat
wow.
before graduation. And so it would have been 100% placement for them. One individual decided to not take their initial job, but he's working now.
Mhm.
But it was a very positive experience. It was very fulfilling. They did really well. Those veterans stepped up and took on the challenge. And it was near and dear to my heart because
I can imagine.
usually when you conceptualize veterans and
Mhm.
service, you go straight to all of the positives, right? And not
Right.
everybody's veteran journey is the same,
Understood.
right? And so it was it was veterans giving back to veterans because the operation manager here, Rebecca Haro, she's a veteran as well. And so you had 4 or 5 of us within HBI that had served,
Mhm.
trying to come together to help.
And you understood what they were going through.
Absolutely.
So,
So at that graduation, we had several members from the House of Representatives, not present, but they had their office represented there, and they
Okay.
brought challenge coins and certificates of appreciation. They gave congressional letters to the graduates.
that is really nice.
It was a wonderful experience.
Well, congratulations again to you and your team for that, and to the vets. That's really amazing. HBI has become and is a nationally recognized training program, providing those resources for individuals for careers and trades. What makes your organization so important at this time?
There's always need, right?
Yes.
I think there's always a need. So we primarily serve underserved populations, right?
Okay.
We've got our Job Corps pillar that's half of our organization as far as operating programs. And then we've got my pillars includes justice involved, adults and youth, incarcerated, probation, parole.
I had no idea about that.
They can be housed in substance abuse treatment centers.
Okay.
We have our transitioning military veterans and dependents as one of our pillars, and then the academy is an open population. But by large, it's underserved populations that needed a different route towards career advancement, I guess, or education.
Right.
And so that need is always there, right?
Right.
There's always that. And then the industry, obviously, right? The industry, I think the headlines for the past few years have centered around the skilled labor shortage.
That was going to be my next question. How is HBI, or what area in construction that has the biggest talent need?
All of them. So
Really?
I answered this question in a Bloomberg interview a while back, right?
Okay.
And they were trying to get to like isolating what trade is the most
biggest
prevalent,
has the biggest need.
and my answer was all of them, right? And so I kind of like to think about it in different terms because the skilled labor shortage is a thing, but it's gigantic. HBI touches about 20,000 graduates a year, right? And so we're part of the solution there. But me personally, and we've got people on our team that are focused on that for the industry, right? I like to focus on our individuals, our students, and the impact we're making on those individuals. And the world's their oyster if they can embrace the work,
Right.
and understand that, it's not always comfortable, it's not always clean, but there's opportunity abound.
Absolutely.
So
I've worked with the Job Corps program for almost 30 years, and have partnered with HBI. Of course, you know that. And so what you just said a few minutes ago about the world being their oyster, and that really, if you have a need for it or a desire to learn and take it, you can really write your own script of the journey that you want to take in any of the construction trades. Apprenticeship has become the new renewed process right now. We're all talking about apprenticeships and how do we create, HBI is a pre-apprenticeship program at, if I'm not mistaken, all Job Corps centers. So how do you and how does your organization help a young person understand that college may not be the pathway for you, but an apprenticeship program can really change the trajectory of your life?
Yes, I think it is a trending right now, the apprenticeship push, but within HBI, it's one of multiple pathways, right? Because the apprenticeships have their own enrollment cycles and opportunities that come up. And that is definitely a route that we explore with all of our graduates. But at the end of the day, it's really up to that graduate to decide which route they want to take, right? And so we try to facilitate that to the extent possible and work with them to kind of map out what a career trajectory would look like through apprenticeships or through just getting back into the workforce.
Right.
But it's out there, and we do our Job Corps side specifically has contractual obligations that so many of their graduates need to be funneled through the apprenticeship program. But I did read something recently, and I didn't do a deep dive in it, but it was a poll or a survey that was taken of current construction workers in the field and how many of them had gone through the apprenticeship route, and it was something like 5%.
Really?
So that rang a bell to me. Again, I don't know how legitimized that one report was.
Right.
But it did make me start thinking, like,
I'm surprised that number seems low.
It seems very low, right?
Right.
But I would have to do more research on that. But it did get me to start thinking is not putting all your ducks in one.
So if I'm quite surprised.
Eggs in one basket. I'm sorry.
I got you. All the ducks in a row and eggs in a basket.
Yeah,
got you.
I got those.
I think the listeners got it. So thinking about just that article that you read, that seems alarmingly low based on, our interaction on a day-to-day basis with the youth we serve, the work that HBI does across this country. How do you think we build that? Is there a misconception? I was talking to a gentleman yesterday, and we were talking about how do you engage parents to understand that, college is not always the route. Trades is definitely a viable workforce for a young person track to take, for a workforce track for a young person. How do you leverage that?
So you mentioned a component there that I think is probably the most critical one is it starts at the home.
Right.
Yeah. Mom and dad need to have their brain rewired around the opportunity, the potential, and the truth, right? And if they could start there, then I have these crazy ideas of how you reintroduce it in, elementary school, middle school, or high school, right? It was something along the lines of...
Share it. I want to hear. I like crazy ideas.
I remember going to science lab as a kid and doing electrical circuit with a potato and a nail or something like that.
I remember that.
And so my mind is like, if you're teaching the science of electricity, why don't you do with a multimeter and an outlet?
Got it.
And bring the tools of these trades into these...
Start young.
Yes.
Introduce
and not making it so foreign, right? It was just small things like that, right? And then I've got a young teenager, and I've raised my children, and he still doesn't know what he wants. So the idea of exploration, I think in that young demographic is critical. And then I think there's also, for the individual as they're aging into adulthood and getting into the workforce, is really being honest with them or making sure they understand what it's going to take to succeed. Because I think the impulsive, I want the gratification now mindset doesn't lend itself to the fact that you're going to need to sacrifice your time for 4 or 5 years to establish yourself as a pro, right?
Yes, it takes time in all areas to really be great.
Yes.
And
I think so to me, those are very fundamental portions that we can start implementing at without a high overcost. It's not big. It's individual conversation that it's making sure that understanding is there.
You were talking about, I remember in elementary school, the little science projects we did. And it made me think about Home Depot used to do these little Saturday workshops. And my sister would take my nephew, you'd come back out with a little wooden cutout car or some little activity, built a birdhouse or something. It's very similar to, as you said, introducing them to, that was fun, but that can lead to you being a carpenter, lead to you doing framing, and really just expanding what those pathways look like for HBI. Because I think sometimes just even, you take construction, you could probably name 5, 10 different pathways just for someone saying, hey, I'm in the construction industry. And I don't think we do a very good job of introducing that early on of what that looks like. You think carpenter building a house. Well, there's a whole lot between the title carpenter and the title walking away from a full house, being built. There's roofing, there's siding, there's just so much pathways and areas that require, expertise in. So you mentioned, that this takes sometimes 4 to 5 years. How do we break that down to a generation that likes that instant gratification? How do we break down that barrier?
That's a complex question. I think so my mind always goes back to the individual, right? It goes individual. And I think that's where HBI excels, because through our instructors from my seat, our instructors are the most vital staff member that we have.
Absolutely.
HBI.
Absolutely.
With that program staff in whole, because we usually have some admin types, that regional career development coordinator is a program level admin type. But I get the privilege that I don't deserve to go across the country and see our students in all of these programs that we run, and the instructors and the impact they make. And it's a beautiful thing. It's also sad to some component, that's to some extent, because you see that for the first time in a lot of our students' lives, there's another person that's actually pouring into them.
Absolutely.
Taking interest in them. And it's that component, right? And then with that comes all the knowledge that our instructors have. So we don't necessarily have an entrepreneurial route or how you become a business owner on your own.
Right.
But our instructors,
Have
they don't do it for everybody. But when the students come up that have that drive or that interest, they give a little bit extra to themselves. One of our former NAHB Chairman Award winners at IBS a couple of years ago came out of our military programs, and the man had a family of, I believe, 6, and they were homeless.
Oh, wow.
And so he went through our programs and reached out for assistance from his instructor down there. It was in Jacksonville, in our Jacksonville, Florida program.
Okay.
And that instructor kind of, guided him through working as a handyman on his own. That's how he got started with Home Depot's Path to Pro program.
Okay.
Doing odd jobs here and there. And he didn't know how to price out his work. He didn't know a lot. He just knew he needed to get to work. So he got it started. And within the first year, he went back to that instructor and said what he was doing. And the instructor kind of guided him on how to price himself out. And 2 or 3 years removed, he was making double or triple when he started, something like that, and working less. But he had figured out that, right? And throughout that whole story, I'm just thinking like that instructor, right? That instructor.
Yeah, that mentor,
yes.
that piece.
Yes. And so they do that. I mean, that's out of their job description, right? For HBI. And so I get to see those things on a regular basis, and it's very energizing, and it keeps the tank filled when I'm at my senior leadership table or somewhere else where the actual effect of what we're doing is not readily like visible or whatnot. So
I have the privilege of working with one of your instructors at the St. Louis Job Corps Center, and he was nominated and awarded the Rookie of the Year for HBI, Joey Fortman. Really good guy. And I mention that because I think you talked about mentoring from instructor to student, but I also think it's just as important from the corporate level that your organization pours in to their instructors. Because it is not an easy job serving the underserved at times. Sometimes, it comes with a lot of skill sets that you need that aren't always in the HBI guidebook, the ability to navigate through some of those traumas that are impacting the young people that we serve. And for you, even the older workforce that you're serving, how do you support that with some of your instructors?
So we have got excellent managers and excellent first line supervisors. Of course, I'm biased there, but I think thinking back on the programs and the partnerships that I've had in some of the areas I'm working in HBI, for instance, down in Florida with the Department of Corrections, our staff have to go through the training that the institution staff have to go through, right?
Right.
To handle the population, to understand the dynamics of
Okay.
the population, how to de-escalate things like that. Out in Boston, we were partnered with AHP, and I think that's Advocates for Human Potential.
Okay.
And they provided a lot of trauma-informed
training
for our instructors to understand the population that we were dealing with, that were substance abuse, rehabilitative, and some homelessness in there.
Right.
But those partners providing the trainings, and then the leadership's identifying, okay, this is the population we serve. Yes, you're training this, but you also need to be able to classroom manage this. And it's a real challenge sometimes because we're pulling our instructors straight from the field.
Right.
So they don't have any formal educational.
And that is exactly the point that I was talking about. And that's pretty amazing that, you take someone that's been framing and you say, hey, come work with HBI. You could really do a great job teaching a young person. But then there's also kind of that formal teaching knowledge that they may not necessarily have. So the way that HBI is providing that, either through, like you said, a partnership, with the detention center, teaching them those skill sets that they need to manage that population, whether it's Job Corps going through their learning management system. I think it's a pretty amazing partnership.
I think those are very critical, but those buttress up against my training team. I've got a group of trainers that are all former instructors.
Okay.
Themselves too, and they've kind of run the gamut of HBI programming and really fine-tuned where the needs are, where the gaps are, and are really, really good at getting our instructors up to speed with what they need to know and filling those gaps. And what I have found is that when a brand new instructor comes in that might be hesitant, by their second or third cohort, they've found their
they found their rhythm. Yeah. Nice. So I want to transition and talk about another piece of initiative that is sweeping through the country, AI technology.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. How is AI transforming your industry and impacting the construction industry?
The first thing that popped to mind were career pivoters, career transitioners, right? I was at, I forget which program it was. I think in the Jacksonville program graduation, and we had a handful of former IT workers career pivoting because AI had kind of led to the downsizing of their
departments. Okay. Right.
And so they came to our program to kind of, figure out what's next for them. But it was real interesting to hear them talk. Those individuals all had jobs before they graduated also, but they spoke to, and I think this goes back to that narrative, right?
Okay.
They spoke to the training that we gave them, waking something up inside them that they did not know
was there.
Nice. In the joy of the work that they were doing, the carpentry work or the plumbing work, specifically there for Jacksonville. And so AI coming in to take some of those tech jobs and people deciding career pivot is something that I'm starting.
You're seeing an experience.
I'm starting to see that a little bit more. And then of course there's always the component of how does this tool now allow us to do our job more effectively?
Yeah.
Reach a broader audience. How can we leverage the core of what HBI trains on? I don't think is going to change very much. It's entry level skilled labor, carpenters, plumbers, electricians. So that's what we're
right. And that's a need. There's a growing need.
So there's always going to be that really tactical, hands-on portion of learning the trade. But from where I'm coming from is how are we using these technologies to better train these students, right? we'll touch on some of the new equipments that are out in the field.
Okay.
But that's really time dependent and program dependent based on
Okay.
what's going on
All right.
there. And then internally, how do we operate our organization more efficiently with these tools, right?
Right.
We're still very much in exploratory. Just like I think any population, we've got our early adopters and our few that are never going
Right.
to touch it, right? Especially when we talk to our instructors, right?
Right.
Some of our instructors are just,
Like, no, I want old school. I know this is going to work. I know this is going to be there.
yeah. So
Understood.
So
Understood.
it's finding that right balance
Right.
and really identifying what products out there
Right.
benefit what we do.
And so being able to navigate for different sectors is what HBI is doing. So what leadership lessons have you learned through your work in workforce development?
Leadership lessons. So we're a workforce training organization
Mm-hmm.
at the core, but we also serve an industry
Okay.
and we serve the individuals. And the leadership lessons that I have learned is that sometimes the topics of conversation, depending on the level in the organization,
Mhm.
are somewhat different,
Okay.
but necessary and necessary because, for instance, the executive team, our CEO, our board members will advocate for policy, right?
Right.
They're having those levels of conversation that don't necessarily directly connect to the work we're doing at
Got
the
it.
program level, right?
Understood.
But
Understood.
it doesn't mean that it's unnecessary work.
Right.
It still needs to happen, but it's pointed in a certain direction, right?
Right.
And then the table I sit at, our senior leadership table, kind of bridge that
Okay.
between what's happening up there and what's happening in the program level. And then we've got our program component, right? And that's was really the driving component to my personal interest in this conference.
Okay.
Because I believe that as from the workforce development program component, this is where we need to be to engage with the people that are doing that type of work, right?
Absolutely.
We go to a lot of industry events, and those are great, but they're industry driven, right?
Right.
And again, connecting the dots to the work we're doing, and where does that value proposition really lie across those conversations?
And so do you see yourself as kind of the navigator of those? You kind of talked about 3 different components. So are you navigating those 3 to make sure that they intersect with HBI?
So this realization is probably about a year old. I think from the leadership lesson, I kind of picked it up about a year ago, maybe a little more than that. I would like to fancy myself that that
navigable. Yeah.
And because I think I do that a lot in just my natural proclivity.
Okay.
You can see how things
right.
So I tried to do that, but getting buy-in that because this is my perspective, right?
Right.
So it might not be true to some of my colleagues, right? So, but I haven't pushed the issue.
Right. Understood.
So I use it. I use that perspective for me because I haven't really spread that out. But,
Okay.
But
all right. So this is a part of the interview where we do the rapid fire.
Okay.
These are the fun questions. All right. Early riser or late night worker?
Early riser.
All right. I could see that. One word would best describe the future of workforce?
Opportunity.
I like that word. Most underrated skill in construction?
Patience.
Very good. Current favorite song in your playlist?
Oh. I don't know. I just listen to it and let it make me feel good, and I don't pinpoint on one.
Okay.
But I don't even know the name of the artist, but it's the name of the song is "Man on the Middle Cross."
Okay.
I think Red Atkins sings it as a country music singer.
Okay. All right. Well, next thing I was going to do is ask you to sing it if you needed to.
No, I don't think nobody needs to hear that.
I've enjoyed talking to you, Mario. This was very enlightening for me. And I hope to our listeners, we've learned that HBI is a very large and impactful organization to our workforce development programs across these United States. Again, congratulations on your acknowledgement from the House of Representatives for the work that you're doing with the veterans. Thank you so much for taking this time to sit with me.
Pleasure's all mine. Thank you.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you for listening to the I Build America podcast. Please subscribe, share, and comment, and be sure to join us next time for more insights and inspiring conversations on building a powerful American workforce. I Build America, building workforce success one podcast at a time.